like a minute early. It's not that early. But
Oh,
it's kind of
black
early.
folk ain't never early.
I know. Well, I am. I'm actually very punctual. Anywho, welcome back to another episode of Unapologetically Black, Never Broken, Always Empowered. I am Brittany, joined by Rich and Dre, my co-hosts.
Gang.
Just want to say we
um,
are looking like a whole unit, all black shirts, all black
I
everything.
You
know
know
we
what?
can't
I
even
didn't
get
even
there.
realize that.
Yeah, I had on white and I took it
Yeah,
off.
black power.
I just so happened to wear black today.
Yeah, I wasn't in sync yesterday. I had on blue. You guys had on red. Today, we got this
Yeah, you
together.
put on Crip. That's all it was.
And we are being joined by our guest this evening, David Alston. How are you?
How are you? Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. So we always start with a mental health check-in. If you want to kick it off, Dre, how are you feeling today? Cool. Dre.
Oh, I thought we already started with the guests.
She clearly said Dre.
I
Oh,
was,
I switched it up.
but my bad. I'm just tired getting back into the swing of 2 jobs. So I just started my new job this morning, doing like prep work and whatnot, and realizing I don't really like prep. Not a big fan of it.
True.
And I'll be starting my new job tomorrow, so I'll be seeing what that's hitting for.
Well, that's exciting. Wait, Dre was paused. Rich, better day than yesterday? Because you had
Better
like a
than
smooth
yesterday.
15-minute rant.
No rants. I can promise you that. Better than yesterday. I'm just tired. I'm gonna be pulling 80 hours this week, probably more. So it's all right.
It'll be
But
worth it in
hey,
the
that's
end.
the life of being a boss. So is what it is.
I feel that. And David, how are you feeling?
Never had a bad day in my life, just bad moments.
That,
I like that view.
right?
Moments just so happen to last for 24 hours plus.
No, I don't let them last that long. I go to sleep.
Hey, I'm tell you right now, nothing is interrupting me going to sleep.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
care how mad I am. I don't care who's sad, who nothing. If it's time to go to bed,
That's
I'll be
it.
mad. I'm going to sleep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm also I'm tired. Like I said, we've been in the process of moving, so it's just been a lot of chaos organized. And I just started my new job, so I had another meeting today, just getting into the swing of that, being a business lady. So yeah, it's been chaotic, but fun in the best ways. So.
That's good.
Yeah. So this evening we have David with us. This month we've been kind of talking about racism and the effects of racism on the Black community. That's what we've been focusing on. So we brought you on today, David, just to share your story with us and a bit of your background and what you do. So I'm gonna let you take the stage.
Well, again, thank you for having me. My story's quite extensive, so I probably don't have enough time to really tell it all. But currently, I live in North Carolina. I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I am a very strong advocate for my people. I often share with members of other races just because I am an advocate or love my people doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means that I love my people. My story started from childhood. I've always known since the age of 7 months that I was adopted. And I've always known that. And my mother's always told me that I was adopted. And she's always shared with me that, you're adopted and you have siblings out there somewhere, but we never could find them. And so eventually, at about age 19, I found my biological family and found my siblings and really connected with them and my biological mother. And of course, the connection that I guess, should have had with my mother wasn't there. And she thought that it was because I was holding resentment because she gave me away at 7 months. And I had to tell her, no, I'm not upset with you, not in the slightest, because the alternative for you giving me away was you could have put me in a trash bag and put me in a dumpster. And so I'm grateful to you that you gave me away. I turned out okay. I turned out successful in life. It's just that emotional part of my life that should have been geared towards siblings I never had because I grew up in a home just her and I. But that part that goes to a mom is already used with her. But so as the years went on, we started to really grow closer and closer until about 5 years ago. I really have been struggling I wanted to travel. I said, I want to go on a cruise, I want to go overseas, but I can't get a passport. And the reason I can't get a passport is because I don't have a birth certificate. There was never a birth certificate in existence with my name on it. And so I'd gone back and forth with attorneys. I sat down with congressmen trying to figure out what do I need to do to get a birth certificate, because I've got all of this. I've got a driver's license with my name on it. I've got a social security card with my name on it, but no birth certificate ever was in existence. And I'm pumping all this social security money into an account that I can't prove it's me. And so eventually, in talking to my mom, I told her, listen, what I really need is I need my adoption papers. That's when she broke down to me that there are none because you weren't adopted. You were abducted. And that was a ton of bricks. That was a big ton of bricks to deal with. But I never held resentment. I asked her, why didn't you tell me this when I first met you 20 years ago? And she said, because I didn't want you to have negative feelings against her or to be upset with her. And I said, well, listen, this doesn't change how I feel about her, but it changes how I feel about you. And so to get to the heart of the story, I'm at my first family reunion with my biological family, and my daughter is with me. And they wheel out the family tree on a large table, and there's this guy there that says he's a historian. Why is there a historian here? And so we're looking at the family tree, and my daughter looks at it and says, Dad, no one will believe this. There is no one, none of my friends are going to believe this. What are you talking about? Look at the family tree, and I see that my grandmother, my great grandfather was actually, my grandmother was first cousins with Harriet Tubman. That Harriet Tubman's father and my great grandfather were brothers, Henry and Benjamin. And so that gave me really a sense of purpose. They gave me this sense of really defining who I am, because it just flows through the bloodline. And so I've dedicated my life to doing everything I can to lead people to freedom. And what is freedom? It means to be able to function without restraints, to be able to live a better life than what we're living. And so I've been an advocate for our people, and I try to speak up for our people. I'm like everyone else of color. We get very passionate, and sometimes we have to sit down, take a chill pill, because when I see you pressing my people, I kind of get a little warm. But that's where I am: podcasting, video casting, speaking, doing everything I can to continue to carry that torch of my third cousin. And that's where I am today. And that was a short version, by the way.
That's a lot.
Do you ever get any kickback or anything like that when you mention this story about your relationship with Harriet Tubman, or how your family tree is?
Kickback in what sense?
Oh, like what people are like, oh, we don't believe you or prove it or things that.
No, actually, I've never had anyone. It's almost like people say, who makes that up? Because I'm able to really, it's not like I'm just saying, well, yeah, I'm related. I'm able to tell you, my grandmother was Gola Ross, and Harriet's original name was Araminta Ross. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm able to trace back that my great grandfather was Henry Ross, and Harriet's dad was Benjamin Ross. And so I've never gotten any kickback. Most people are amazed. What's funny is that when I found that out, I was like my daughter. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Wow, this explains a lot about me. Whereas the rest of my family, when I turned to them and said, do y'all, their response was, oh, yeah, we've always known that, you know.
So, you said that you started your own podcast, and the name of your podcast is The Underground Subway. Where did you get that name from?
I got that name from Harriet, who did the Underground Railroad. However, during this modern day, I said, let me add a little modern kick to it. Instead of the railroad, we're going underground. We're going to do the subway. I would get a kickback if I tried to use the Underground Amtrak. So I said, the Underground Subway.
And what are some topics that you talk about on your podcast?
I have guests on a regular basis. I think of the 30 or 40 episodes that I've already done, I may have went solo on 2. I have guests on every podcast, and every topic is dealing with how to make life better, all of my guests are professionals who use their strategies, their concepts, their experiences, their expertise, and how we can live a better life. And that deals with some of the topics we've talked about everything from domestic violence to men's health to grief, all of these topics, mental health. We deal with it all. Any way that we can help one another live a better life is what we talk about. And the issue is that I'm supposed to be interviewing these people, but I walk away feeling like I just had a free therapy session.
It can feel like that sometimes.
Yes.
Right.
It can definitely feel like that.
So, what? Sorry. That's not what I wanted to say. Not what at all. So, have you faced adversity just in life? Like I said, this month we're kind of talking about racism and the effects. So, in your personal life, have you faced any adversity that has inspired you to go down this path more so than just finding out your lineage?
Yes, I think one of the things that I deal with, I've heard a couple of you talking about new jobs. I'm a year into a new job, and one of the things that I talked about during my interview, I have to get past is the fact that when I walk in the room at 6'2", 300-pound man, I look like an offensive lineman. And when I walk in with all this facial hair, there's sort of a physical presence that happens when you walk into a room with people of non-color, seeing a man of my complexion and my size walk into the room. They immediately back up and feel as though, we're in trouble. And I have to break through that. Then you have to deal with the fact for 20 years I worked in education as a teacher, and just seeing, the opposition of just seeing racism on that level of seeing how children is something that's taught to them, because you can see children on a playground. I remember one day I went on the playground, I saw a little white girl and black girls on the swing, and they're playing and their faces are this close and they're just giggling. And it dawned on me, this is taught. And the dilemma is, how do we unteach it? Because it's already embedded in our society. Are we going to have to wipe out everyone and start over? Which we can't do that, unfortunately.
Right. So, with that title, your cousin, and you saying you've been for our people, I would assume you're a very pro-Black person.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yes, definitely.
In your own words, what would that mean to you? Because some people have very unhealthy versions of it. So I want to hear your version of it.
To pro-Black?
Yes.
Let's equal the playing field. Equal the playing field to where like I was mentioning with the story, when I walk into a room, don't see a person of color, see me for who I am. And when we equal the playing field, when we realize that we're all humans, I don't want an advantage because of my color, but I also don't want a disadvantage because of my color. I want that compassion because I'm a person. I recently posted something, and I hope I'm not getting in trouble by getting into all this, but I recently posted something on social media, and I know that I offended some of my what are we now? I'm 57 years old, so I don't know, are we black or African American? I'm sort of probably irritated some of my non-African American friends because I made the comment, you're getting upset over someone raiding someone's office because of a crime that they did, but yet I don't hear you say anything about how our young black men are shot and murdered, unarmed men murdered by law enforcement. You're silent when it comes to things like that. And so when I say that I'm pro-black, I mean, if you have a voice for equality, it needs to ring loud, whether it's me or whether it's the next person. But too long, we've been under the rock. And it's time for that rock to be removed, because I want my grandchildren and my children to live a life of equality. If we're going to live in this world, not just this country, but in this world, we need to live in this world as equal individuals. So I'm pro-black. I think we all should be given an equal rights. And I know that sounds crazy, but we should all have equal rights. And I don't see it in this country.
So with that being said, yesterday we talked about does racism still exist, and we mentioned does not racism, does slavery still exist, right? And so we mentioned certain things like financial slavery, and then like the jailhouse and stuff like that.
Right.
What would you say that slavery in some form still exists today?
Oh, definitely. There are definitely instances of slavery in which you have a system set up to where one person, one of the things that I do, one of the things that I do on one of my shows is that I'll have a can and I'll open a can of worms with my guests. I say, I'm going to ask a question that's going to really be controversial. And I think that we have slavery that reaches not only in society as far as during the time of Harriet Tubman with chains and a massa, you have slavery, whether it's in our religious organizations. I think that there's a form of slavery in that, because you may have one person and everyone else is supporting that master. And you can have slavery across the board. Anything that's in our life that is not allowing us to live a life without restraints is slavery. And yes, one of the main ones is the prison system. That's one of the main ones, the prison system. I think there's slavery in our education system because our children aren't taught everything they need to know. My daughter went to college, and the first thing she said was, "Dad, I'm not prepared for this. They didn't teach us this stuff in high school." That's slavery. What is slavery to me? It is saying you can only get so far. And one of the problems is with slavery is that we need more shows like this that we can expose it. Remember, Harriet said something powerful. She said, I would have freed a lot more slaves if they only knew there were slaves. And one of the problems is we have a lot of people that don't realize that we're in slavery. So we need more shows, more live streams like this. This needs to be heard so that we can expose it, so that we can tell people you are living in slavery. I'm sorry, I get carried away.
No,
you're fine.
That's something that we brought. That's why we brought you on, so that we could have somebody better explain it than me, because I'm from Southwest Houston and I explain it in a completely different way than you can. You're more elegant with it,
Well, that's one of the issues we have, because right now, as I said, I'm currently in a hotel room in Philadelphia, which is where I'm from, Philadelphia, but I live in North Carolina, and one of the things is being able to see things are different in certain areas. Riding, I was totally shocked when riding through North Carolina. On Interstate 95 in North Carolina, you will see on the side of the highway one of those large, gigantic flags. It's a Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And when you ride by it, you just shake your head. I was stunned as I drove here and saw that same flag in Virginia. I wasn't expecting it. I thought maybe, and see what happened. We have to again, expose it. We have to let people know that it exists. Let people know that there's certain subtle hints of racism in our country. There's subtle things, subtle, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but there's subtle signs that people use. Instead of the Confederate flag, they may use things like wearing camouflage.
Okay, that's a new one. I haven't heard of that one.
That's what. Yes.
Well, that's because you're military. But when you
Yeah,
think
that could
about
be.
it from the
when I say
countryside, like
I'm military. I was in the Navy too, but I'm not talking the green. I'm talking about the hunting camouflage, the tan ones, which is what you saw a lot of on that January 6th. You saw a lot of camouflage running around there.
that's true.
Yeah, I've noticed the difference coming from. I'm from Houston, but right now I'm in Ohio. I don't have 3 stores up here, so I'm up in Ohio, and I just noticed the difference in how, culturally, how they look at Black people out here, and they don't say, oh, why are you here, but they look with kind of like a reservedness about themselves, like, we're not used to him being here. Okay, well, you know what? Since he's here, I'm just gonna walk over here and do this. I have my store. I'm not saying nothing bad about nobody. It's just maybe it's a coincidence that I had 4 all white. My entire store was all white employees. The moment I show up, all 4 quit in a matter of 2 weeks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I believe you.
Before I got there, ain't nobody have plans on quitting. Everybody was talking about how I want to be with the company for X amount of years, and then the moment I get there, it's here's my resignation letter.
Didn't they have to interview with you?
No, so I bought the stores. They were already there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't hire none of them.
Yeah, I mean, and it is just one of the things we need to do is open our eyes to things like that, because believe it or not, I believe that will happen to a lot of people and they don't recognize it. Like, I've gone to a hotel and hopped in the swimming pool, and the white family jumped out. And I start splashing even more.
Make them uncomfortable.
Right.
I agree with that. One of the other topics we talked about last week, just because you kind of touched on it, were sundown towns. And we were talking about how sundown towns exist and they have existed. But it's one of those parts of history that no one talks about. And there's so many parts to racism and being Black in today's society that are that kind of go without being said or even talked about nowadays, that were such a prevalent part in our culture that they just, like with CRT, that they just kind of try to brush away and not teach you. So in your experiences in being essentially down south and along the East Coast, with sundown towns and stopping at different places, have you ever had an experience in any of those?
I have not. I have not had that experience. I should.
Yeah.
The type of vehicle I was driving, I would think that they would have got me, but they didn't. But I haven't personally had to deal with that issue.
So do you do any type of activist type work or nonprofit work for our people?
They're actually in my area. It's very limited. I was a member of the local NAACP. I ran for office. There's very little because it's sort of, and I shake my head in the South because, number one, people are so uninformed. And I hate to, again, open another can of worms, but it seems like this next generation is all social media and they're not taking advantage of the social media. They won't sit for an hour and listen to a broadcast like this, but they'll watch Raquisha and Laquita fighting in the parking lot. They want to hear all the gossip. So in my area, here in Philadelphia, there's more to do because you're talking about a major city. But in my area, living in a rural area, there's not much to really do. And people don't want to, quote unquote, rock the boat because they're dependent on them, which brings me back to your point about slavery. If I'm dependent on you, then I'm a slave to you.
Do you believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is something that is helping us progress into the future? Because I've met some people, even Black activists, where they don't necessarily agree with some of their strategies and then their plans on how we attack certain issues, and then how sometimes Black Lives Matters is quiet when it comes to certain issues. How do you
I
see
agree. Yeah, I think
their
that
movement?
we're quiet when we should be speaking, and we're speaking when we should be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
If that can sum it up.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the problems that I think we have is not just with us, but particularly with us, is that we as a people, we're not really informed on things unless it affects us. We're not informed on our history. We're not informed on world events, current events, unless it affects us.
I've seen that happen with a lot of Black people in general. If a certain issue doesn't really affect our area, it's kind of
Mhm.
like hey, we feel for you, but it
Right,
really ain't got nothing to do with us,
right.
type of deal. And I've seen more people have more of a, it sounds mean to say it like this, but more of a crab in a bucket style
Oh,
mentality
definitely.
versus what, let me I'm gonna get my money together, you get your money together, we're gonna buy this block.
That's
Instead
right.
of doing that and coming together and saying, we're gonna buy the street, buy the block, it's now a competition where, okay, well, I gotta buy that house, and then now I gotta try to make sure that no one else can
Mhm.
else buy, what I'm saying, because I gotta keep them out of it. Because I
Right.
want to be the only,
Mm-hmm.
successful person
Well,
here.
and that is an excellent point, and that goes back to the mentality of slavery. There was oftentimes in slavery when the massa would have his child, his son, and the son, of course, had to play with someone, and he would play with the little black child in the field. Well, the son would ask the master, could the child come in and have dinner? And oftentimes that little black kid would come into the big house and have dinner with master's little boy. What would happen is, as we used to say back in the day, what had happened was the little black kid doing dinner, they often found him taking uh, the biscuits, and instead of eating the biscuits, he was hiding them in his pocket in his shirt, trying to take, because he felt like I may not get this opportunity anymore. And so that's a part of that mentality that you just said. I'm going to get my building, but I need to get all I can because I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to really grow this.
Mhm.
And that's a part. That's just a substratum of that crab mentality, which is to our detriment because I mean, I'm sure you guys have discussed as far as consumers how much we have.
Oh
We
yeah, yeah.
we
But,
run
but
this.
as a Black folk, we will spend $1 trillion as consumers.
Right. We run it. We run it.
Mm-hmm.
We run this country financially.
hmm On the spending side, for some
On the
reason,
spending, right, right.
on the earning side of it, for some reason, we're far behind on the
There's
earning.
a disconnect.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I know I understand that plays a huge factor. The fact that Black people, a lot of Black people, are financially illiterate when it comes to certain things because it's not taught to our families. It's not taught in school. And if grandma didn't know it, she only taught what she knew.
Right.
And then, mama taught what she knew and she did what she could in the era in which she grew up in. And then, in the era in which I grew up, I can only teach. But now I'm more fortunate because I'm growing up in an area with way more information, with
Mm-hmm.
way and more accessibility to the information. How do you believe we now move forward in teaching the next generation that, hey, this is something that we should take serious, and it's not just a get rich quick scheme. It's not just something just to know, but something that we need to actually build our life on.
Well, I think going back to what I said a moment ago about the downside, it can also be an upside to social media. I was talking to a principal of a school last year, and I was mentioning to him about an app that I had on my cell phone. Uh, I'm not gonna call the name. I'm not gonna give him any advertisement, but it was an investment app. And I was sharing with him how I was investing in Amazon and I was investing in Nike investing in these. And here's a principal of a school that had no idea what investments, how that worked.
Mm.
How can you teach, which goes back to your point, it's not being taught in school. Well,
Right.
if I know back in 1980, I could only teach the person in my neighborhood.
Right.
I can only teach my family. I can only teach my children. I can only teach. Well, here we are in 2022, 42 years later. I can teach the world what I know simply by doing one of these broadcasts.
Right.
So it's a matter of doing it, and it's a matter of perseverance, because we live in a time when everything is microwave. We want to see results and right now, and it's just going to take time. If every one of us, I don't know, you guys are, a lot younger than I am, I assume, but
Brady's
Drake,
not.
like he may be up there.
I hate you.
But years ago, there was a commercial on, and it sort of looked like this, the scene here, because they said something about if one person, and then the commercial said, and so on, and it popped up to 4, and so on, and then it popped up to 16, and it kept spreading. Well, if one of us can reach just 5 people, and those 5 people teach 5 people, and those people teach 5 people, and we can make a change, we can make a difference, but we need to educate this next generation, or this cycle is going to continue.
Right.
Absolutely. So speaking of education, and you said you were an educator for decades, essentially.
20 years.
How do you feel about CRT? The argument of taking it out of schools.
Can we explain what CRT is?
Critical race theory. So critical race theory, essentially just the history of African Americans in American history.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for those of us that didn't go to college straight out of.
The two sides. There's an argument that says that it's. There's an argument. I have a friend of mine that really dug into it, whose point is that it's not very good because of its foundation, but because it's sort of like it's teaching a guilt trip. Mm-hmm. My opinion is it should be an educational piece. It should be a piece of history. I remember, and I'll try to draw this analogy. I walked into my living room one day, and my daughter was, at the time, she was 17 years old, senior in high school, and I asked her about Malcolm X. And at 7, a senior in high school, about to graduate, she had no idea who Malcolm X was.
He is nowhere near mentioned in high school at all.
Nowhere.
And not a single high school.
I could have gotten upset with this curriculum, and you know who I was upset with? Me, because I said, as a parent, I should be the one teaching my daughter. So that being said, without getting into the nooks and crannies of CRT, it's not something that we should just say it won't be taught, because I can teach what the schools don't teach. Now the question is, do I know anything about it myself?
Absolutely.
So
I think that's the issue. That's what you found.
Beyond just teaching CRT to the 5th graders, we need to teach CRT to the 40-year-olds and the 30-year-olds who have no idea what happened.
Right.
I mean, something, no idea who we know George Floyd, but we have no idea what happened with Emmett Till. We have no idea about what happened with Medgar Evers. No idea.
All right.
So you wouldn't know whether they're teaching it or not, and it won't even matter to you because you don't know.
So more. Go ahead, Dre.
Say what teaching the future generations is very important, but what are the key things that the previous generations, like us millennials and the Gen Xers before us, should educate themselves on in order to be able to educate the future generations. On top, besides CRT, because you already expanded on that.
I think one of the main things that we need to learn and to be taught is the power of unity. As a people, Rich mentioned it earlier about the crab theory. If we get together, man, we can do anything we want to do. And I think that's one of the things I want to, if I can I hope I'm not going in the left field. We get together, man. We've proven that we care enough about each other. But when it comes down to certain issues such as violence, I was telling someone recently, a young man, one of my students now, he's about 31 years old, said something to me and I just stole it. I told him I'm stealing it. I'm not even going to call your name when I mention it. He said, I've seen two black people fighting before. I've seen, and I'm coming from Philly, I've seen black fights. I've never seen two black people fighting each other. I've never seen one black person murder, kill, or attack another black person because he was black.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But I have seen other races attack us because we're black.
Right.
Which leads me to your question. We need to pound the fact that we're in this together. I mean, and when we put our mind to it, like I'll take you back to the beginning of this. I had, and I could grab it somewhere before we came on. I came on and I jumped back off because I had on a white shirt. Something inside of me said, take the white shirt off and just put on a black shirt. So I said, well, I'm in, but I went out because I had to pull the white shirt off. So I want to put on a black shirt. Little did I know that all of us would have on black shirts. We didn't plan this. It just happened. But look at what happens when we all get together. We're alike. We got one face, and we're stronger. And I think that's one of the main things that we need to teach, that we're unified people, man. We got to stop. We got to stop this division amongst ourselves, because when you succeed, I succeed. We can't have a mentality that says, if I can't achieve it, then you can't achieve it. But it's a result of us never having anything, whether it's success in a podcast or video. Your numbers are up. I'm jealous because you got more viewers than I have. No, you know what? It's not about that. If you just affect one person, that's one person to help strengthen the nation. And when I say the nation, I'm talking about us, because we are a nation.
So
again, I'm sorry because
Morgan Freeman made a quote, I think, from a while ago, where he said, the best way to end racism is to stop talking about it. Right? He said that's how you end it. What are your thoughts on that quote?
All right, what's your next question? I guess you get away with a lot when you're rich. So I guess,
because it while we were talking about it, we talk about the Kanye quote, right? When Kanye said slavery was a choice. I broke down and said that I understood what Kanye might have meant and how it just came out dumb when he said it. But I think I understood what he meant by it. Don't clap at me. Don't patronize me.
So dumb. So proud of you.
You were heavily defending it beforehand, so that's progress.
I was
It was the use of the word dumb.
It's because I used the word dumb and not the word that I normally use. Anyway, I was defending what I believe Kanye's position to be, which was I believe what he was trying to say is that there were so many slaves that they could have overran the house, but they were so afraid and they weren't unified that they just kind of chose to not do it. I'm assuming that's what he meant, because then anything else other than that, he would just sound dumb.
You're saying he was like Malcolm said with the house Negro.
Kinda.
Well, let me ask you this about Morgan's. What was the question you asked me about living in the South? What area? What do you call that? Where they stop you?
Oh, sundown towns.
Oh, the sundown towns.
Has Morgan Freeman had to experience that?
I don't know. Morgan Freeman is like what, 85-ish,
Right.
90.
He's been about 85 all my life.
Since he has experienced his personal success, has he been stopped and pulled out, and has he been profiled?
Not Morgan Freeman. That's Morgan Freeman. You don't profile Morgan Freeman.
So for him to say, let's not talk about it, okay, I feel you, bro, but you don't have to experience what it's like to be looked at funny. Now, Brittany can get away with things that I can't get away with. And I'm not talking about because she's a female. I'm talking about
colorism.
I said it. I wasn't going to say that. You know.
I said it because she light skinned.
I have a tan.
Light skinned.
See, we were telling her that. Was it yesterday, Dre, or the day before we was telling her that? We were talking about the difference between light-skinned and dark-skinned people.
Light-skinned, but I'm still a dark nigga. Shout out to Drake. Let's keep it pushing.
But
it could be Jay-Z.
It does matter. It is a factor. And sadly enough, I came up in an era when I was in high school in the 80s, the issue wasn't being light-skinned with whites. I came up in an era when being light-skinned was a problem with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were dark. We were dark. We were the jigaboos. And I remember being in high school and the black kids calling me darky. And we had a guy that was probably the color of his complexion was the color of my shirt. And they nicknamed him Poof. Just like if you lit a match and it goes poof. He was that dark.
Or how they make fun of Africans, you know,
right.
African booty scratching, you know, under the bed and stuff like that.
So again, part of the problem isn't, I mean, I'm not saying that all of it, but part of the problem is we got to do some in-house cleaning ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also think one of the other issues is, and you talk so much about this on your podcast, but mental health and the importance of Black people understanding their mental health. As far as the conversations you've had in your life experience, how has your mental health journey been, and when did you start really opening up about your feelings? Because as Black men, you're told, shut that shit down at a very early age. So when were you able to connect to your mental health and understanding that?
Yeah, because I'm noticing now, I thought that the mental health and the shutting down was just on the male side. Historically, men, we don't talk. Women, you guys talk. You guys will. Historically, you know, when you look at it, we don't express our emotions because as a man, we're taught to be strong. We're taught that, and you're a brother, man, you're a man. You don't cry over that, man. You got to be tough. And so I remember as a little boy, my mom used to tell me, I used to say, Mommy, I'm cold. And she would always tell me, boy, man don't get cold. Man ain't never cold. He tough. And so I went through life freezing. Up there, what's wrong with you? Nothing. I'm good. Because subconsciously I was taught as a man, I can't show how I'm really feeling. And I thought, but then it dawned on me a few days ago that it's the same way with our sisters because they've always been taught that they're too emotional. So now what they try to do is say, you know what, if I'm too emotional, I'm going to cut back a little bit on it. So now none of us are really expressing how we feel. And when you don't express how you feel, it festers, whether it's a physical pain. If you have a pain is a signal in the body. Whenever you're hurting, pain is a signal to let you know something is not right. That's what pain is. Well, it's the same way with emotional pain, is letting you know something's not right. And when you don't do anything about that physical pain, it's not going to go away just because you say it's not there. It's there. Well, it's the same way with emotional pain, with mental health. And we got a lot of people, a lot of our Black males and our Black females who are dealing with mental health issues because we don't have anyone that we can trust or talk to say something is wrong. And
Do you believe it's because it's a lack of Black psychologists or Black therapists, where I want to go to someone that looks like me that might know what how I'm feeling when it comes to certain issues? Do you believe it's because it's a lack of that, or just because Black people just don't want to go and talk to a
yeah,
therapist at all?
I think it's just personally, I think it's just an issue of me just trusting. I don't trust. I don't want to sit down and tell you, I ain't telling you my business. That's just my opinion. In my opinion, I think it's a lack of trust. The people that we used to trust, whether it was our political leaders or our religious leaders, they have failed us as far as that trust issue. And when you find a religious leader, when you find a local clergyman or whoever it is, a family member that you can talk to, I think that is golden. But I think it's just a matter of I remember, again, I don't mean to keep talking about how old I am because I'm not that old, but we used to play a game when I was younger where you would fall back.
She is pretty old.
I got you.
Stop. I was like, what's your finger doing?
We would fall back. Y'all remember when you would fall back and someone would catch you?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
but there come a time when you would always kind of stick that foot out just in case. Mm-hmm. Just in case you drop me. And if you ever drop me one time, that's it. And I think a lot of us have been dropped by people. A lot of us have been dropped by people in the sense of them giving us bad advice. Or when I say trust, I don't want to go to Rich and tell Rich my problem. Next thing I know, Dre is saying, yo, man, let me talk to you, man. Wait a minute. I told you. I didn't tell him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I actually think because
if I can piggyback off of that, you said something about because we don't have enough Black psychologists. Why don't we?
I honestly believe it's because of that, because we don't. I feel that Black people have enough trauma themselves that they don't necessarily want to deal with other people's trauma. Because I'm barely able to deal with my own. I believe a lot of therapists have to be able to deal with their trauma and other people's trauma. And that's a tall glass. That's a tall order to ask somebody to do. You have to be really good at that. And I know for a fact, like, I'm not one of those people. Like, look, I can barely do this thing. I got kids that I have to worry about trauma. I have a wife I have to worry about being able to, she's good. And I can't take on 40, 50 other random people. Because my answer is, look here, bro. We in the same.
And see, I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite in a sense. I will sit down with you and talk to you and give you some advice, and I'll hear you. But at sometime I'm like, man, go talk to somebody else tonight. The night ain't the night.
Yeah, man. Like,
game on tonight, man. I ain't.
So with that being said, what are some future things that you have going on, you personally? What are some things that you're going to be doing here to let you know, maybe in the next month or a year or so, what you got going on your own personal plate?
Well, I'm learning to doing so much that I'm at a point now where I'm saying I'm going to stop doing so many things, and I'm going to focus on one major thing. And I just had a meeting this afternoon. I sat down for an hour and I met with a gentleman, and I shared with him all of the intricate details of my story. And we're in the process of starting to write a screenplay to have it possibly go even further than that.
Okay. And where I know that you have a podcast. Where's somewhere we can find you at?
Yes,
Facebook?
The podcast. It's on my name on Facebook is David Bright, because that is my birth name, Edward Bright. David Bright Alston, but the name of the podcast is The Underground Subway, and that is the website, the undergroundsubway.com, and you can choose whether you want to listen to it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast.
Okay. All right. She's typing the stuff in the chat so we can make sure that everybody gets it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for joining us this evening and for having this conversation with us. It was a joy.
Thank you all. The honor is all mine. I love to talk, and I love to talk to people that know what they talk about.
I feel that. I feel that. So I think our next episode is Saturday, Shit Talk Saturday. When you had mentioned social media, we realized this morning with YouTube, we have, a younger population on our YouTube, and Shit Talk Saturday is their favorite thing, where we talk about current events and, just give our perspective on it. So that is on Saturday. So we look forward to that. And this week's been kind of crazy too.
Yeah, Kim K and Pete, you know how they roll.
And Jeanette McCurdy, Dan Schneider.
No, we got a lot.
Yeah.
And it's only Wednesday. We still got 3 more days.
Serena Williams retired. Angela Yee leaving
Did she already retire? Yo, the Breakfast Club with Angela McGee, Charlotte McGay.
Y'all got to teach me how to. Y'all got to teach me how to get on TikTok, because I don't know. I've got an account. I got to figure out how to do TikTok.
I just learned myself.
Yeah, I don't do the TikTok.
That's hilarious. But until then, everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and stay unapologetically Black. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peace, guys.
All right.